Hey, I'm Like and Logic, and welcome to my channel. Today, I kind of want to just talk about a video that I watched today about Carl Sagan. He was doing an interview with this gentleman, and they asked the audience to ask a question, and this lady asked, the evolutionary progress of man. It kind of roughs up to the idea that the evolutionary process of man has become stagnant to the point where we are declining. And she got an applause. Carl Sagan didn't like that it got an applause. And he rebutted with, it was an intellectual answer. And the guy is very smart. I don't condone his work. I don't like, I wouldn't pass on his work. I try to get an understanding of everything to make my understanding stronger, right? And his understanding of evolution is based around man, though, and I think that was the pinnacle of her question, was the idea of man's evolutionary process, not evolution as a whole. Like in that interview that he was doing, where the lady asked a question, he rebutted with the idea of the evolutionary process as a whole. And he says that, well, evolution it's not just a up and down thing, it's all over the place type of thing, and that it's subtle. I agree with that. It is very subtle. And within humanity, it's based on generations. You reproduce a child, and that child has traits of yours and the woman, so on and so forth. That's how evolution on a whole works generally. And he also states that some evolutionary processes aren't, in a sense, beneficial. I disagree with that. I think if a species develops based on its environment, then it's suitable for that environment, regardless of, a species can develop in the desert for 100 years, and then that desert becomes a oasis of sorts. Well, that animal either moves to another desert or it adapts to the oasis, right? So, sure, if you're talking gradually, something like hyenas, the way that they give birth, they're pretty brutal. But that's not to state that in time, it could have been like a hyena, and this is just hypothetical at this part anyway. If the hyena was born in the desert and it developed a certain birthing habit for the desert, and then that desert becomes an oasis, that birthing process no longer benefits in the oasis as it did in the desert. So it has to adapt, but it will be gradual because the species has to give birth in order to have a form of adaptation through the environment. Like the child gets more of that environment, so it adapts stronger and faster than the previous one. But like the change from a desert to an oasis can happen rapidly, very rapidly, at least in the world scale. And that forces species to evolve differently. Either they move to a place where it's either warm in a desert, or they are stuck adapting in the oasis. And of course, some of their adaptations from the desert are going to give them hard times in the oasis. That's the gradual, because over time it will get better, but it might not, depending on how much the environment changes, because the environment can change rapidly again. I think one of the main problems with kind of thinking of evolution based on just humanity is we're completely negating the entire natural law of the world. And to think that humanity is more intelligent than the fucking planet that houses and reproduced us and produced us is asinine. All living beings on this planet, not just humans, are in a sense a sacred, not to natural law, but to the species, right? I know some species will murder, or some species will rape, or some species will do that, this. The minority doesn't overrule the majority unless your argument's strong enough. So the small knit of fucking animals that do the dirty sin or whatever does not outweigh the entire fucking natural law of things. That's and the argument wouldn't be strong because it's such a small knit group that you can't just base the entire understanding of the natural law on that. That's stupid. Just like you can't base humanity around the entire understanding of the world. You can't do that because humans aren't the only ones here. We weren't the only ones here. We're not even the first ones here. The trees were here before we were. And yet we'll cut down 100 of them to fucking sail the seas. Free will doesn't exist, by the way. I will travel the 7 seas. I will at the cost of 100 trees. Those are living organisms as well. They provide they provide a necessity to that ecosystem. They're very important. We know they're important. We want to deny that fact because we, as humans, want to uphold our comforts and securities. We do not like to not have control of things. And that's what scares us. Taking away the control from humanity and giving it back to Mother Nature, you will see a huge fucking difference in our evolutionary process. Because I do believe we have become stagnant and have been declining evolutionarily for decades. Whether that's psychological or physical. Look at the people nowadays. Whether they're mutilating themselves, or they're addicting themselves, or they're fucking hunched over a fucking desk playing hours of video games. You're telling me that's the pinnacle of human evolution? That's the pinnacle right there, right? Staying within 4 walls, 16 hours of the fucking day, barely going outside? I wouldn't think so. I would think that would be cutting us off from the natural state of things. We want to assume that we know so fucking much, yet we don't understand that we've learned everything we know from the fucking planet. Creating a hypothesis to see if it actually works is not intelligence. That's just not trusting Mother Nature's doing its job. That's my opinion. That's all I fucking think science is. Experimental science is trying to prove we understand what the world's doing already. And it's not, and it's, as I don't think that's intelligence. But I think humanity got on a wavelength with one another and decided and created a provided intelligence for one another so that we can continue to have the control that we have, right? That's where societies, but when society crumbles, you'll see what Mother Nature can do, even if you can't control it. And that's what the Buddhist term, let it go, that's what it means. Let it go. Let go of the idea and the illusion of society and go with the flow of nature. The flow of nature. The flow of consciousness, right? You could be a conscious being, but you can be a conscious being without being tapped into the consciousness. Now, all other species outside of humanity communicate with each other. They do. A tree drops a few apples for a pig to come and eat them. If the pig doesn't eat all of them, he tramples them, crumbles them up into the ground. That creates new places for seeds to develop and grow another tree. or it provides food for a lower species, lower than a pig. Right? It's a symbiosis. We kicked ourselves out of the symbiosis of the natural world and decided to have technology, comforts, and securities to benefit us alone. I guess what I think is there is a balance in the world, and the balance is to be able to use and utilize our intelligence to benefit the world, not take from it. And I think that's kind of what irked me a little bit with the Carl Sagan interview, was the fact that he doesn't understand evolution outside of man, in a sense, because we've come so far. Why would we give it all up? You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just crazy, but his work's good. I'm actually going to be doing a little more research on his stuff, so I might actually bring up a few more topics on him. But I kind of want people to understand that our evolutionary process isn't anything special. And based on the woman's question, it deserved an applause, because I honestly do believe humanity is declining. And that's the kind of thing too, is you got to take a grain of salt with a lot of these scientists or named philosopher type of stuff, because these are men that have egos, right? And they'll supply their egos as long as they can benefit from it. So like money, status, that type of stuff is important, especially in that type of work. That's how you get noticed. That's why a schlackum like me, I wouldn't even dream of that type of work. I don't have enough confidence in my intelligence, for one, but to be able to drop everything that I understand to pick up another book of somebody else's and be like, this is how it works. I got to use my own brain. I got to be able to break that shit down. Like I said before, you should never take up somebody's words and hold on to them as if they're your own. Don't follow that shit. It's best to understand their information, get rid of the bullshit, and regurgitate the other stuff in your own fucking words. But like, add to it, right? Debate it. Always debate. You should always, just because somebody's intelligent in the past doesn't mean their work cannot be improved on in the future. That goes for anybody, even me. Like, if somebody can debate my work that helps me understand more, fuck, hell yeah. That's the whole point of this shit. That's how you find the truth, or at least the way. Because I believe there is a balanced way. We don't know how to use it. We don't know how to utilize it to benefit everything rather than consume everything for ourselves. Like, I don't think Darwin, when he based his understanding on evolution, I don't think he understood how much technology would change our evolutionary process, whether that be physical or psychological. But I think upholding man's ideas is kind of the problem. Once we get rid of the idea that man's the most important, then we'll be able to see clearer. Maybe not much right now, but in the future, it would be a lot clearer. Because, I don't know, it weirds me out to think that, like, people don't understand that we were part of the animal kingdom at one time. And he's got a good take on religion too. It's like it's story and poetry. That's what it is. It's a good story. That's what he represents. And that's what he, yeah, that's what he represents. And I understand that because I talk about the same type of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, or religion is just it's a foundation to build a society. Once you have the control, you have the people. Once you have the people, you can build a cause. What's the cause? God. He's the reason for the cause, right? So, but doing so takes away from Mother Nature, which is our mother. Just because God's our father doesn't mean we don't have a mother. And that's the whole fucking point of this. You need a mother and a father to reproduce, to produce something, right? You can't just do it with one or the other. You can't just have God. You've got to have Mother Nature. Even if we don't trust Mother Nature anymore, it does not mean she's not there. You can call it Satan. You can call it Satan's domain. I don't give a fuck what you call it. It's our planet. And it's our home. And I think we need to learn how to use our home properly. But that's all I got. Just kind of wanted to give a little brief cap on a video I seen. I'll talk to you later.